Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today we're going to take a little bit of a different format, and instead of focusing on one topic, we are going to talk about the three pieces of news that came out over the past week, from the fact that broker transparency ruling is getting delayed yet again, to a petition started by truckers revolving around ELP, and finally to Texas really cracking down on those English language proficiency violations. Lots to cover today, so let's get started. Ready? Let's go! So starting with broker transparency, this has been a battle that has lasted over 5 years now, and just last November, the FMCSA released a notice of proposed rulemaking, which really kind of disappointed a lot of people. Instead of seriously addressing the issue the way that truckers were asking for this issue to be addressed, the FMCSA proposed things like, oh, let's make sure that all brokers keep electronic records so that in case they do have to send those records to a carrier, it's easier. They also tried to reframe the language from a regulation to a regulatory duty for brokers to share those records. And they also wanted to require brokers to provide those records within 48 hours of request. That is all fantastic, but the FMCSA failed to address one big issue in all of this, and that's the fact that most brokers today, most freight brokers, actually have language in their carrier setup packets, which forces the carrier to waive his or her right to ever see those records. And carriers who do ask for those records are often blacklisted. Well, like I said, that notice of proposed rulemaking was published last November, and now they are planning to publish a second notice of proposed rulemaking in, wait for it, May of 2026. The most interesting thing about this is that there is absolutely zero indication that the second notice is going to be any different from the one published almost a year ago. Now, according to Landline, and I'm going to quote this, the timeline means that it could be 2027 or later before the final rule takes effect. Optics, guys, it's all about appearances, as I have recently learned. We only see real change start to happen when there is mass outrage, usually caused by mass media blasting everyone's screens, laptops, YouTube channels, radios with the news that is hot. It's actually unbelievable, and I think this is where my issue with this is, because you all know my stance on broker transparency, or actually lack thereof. But what is unbelievable to me is the fact that people in control, those who actually have the ability to make change, they do not listen to the voices of folks who have been in this industry. Instead, they only start moving when the optics are unfavorable. But as they say, what else is new? So yeah, broker transparency is on the back burner as of right now. Now let's move on to this new petition started by truckers revolving around the issue of English language proficiency. According to Overdrive, and I quote, "A bilingual truck driver and 3 collaborators have filed a petition for rulemaking with the FMCSA proposing a new English language proficiency commercial driver's license endorsement." The lady who started this petition, her name is Natasha Cruz Sanchez, and she believes that creating an endorsement for ELP is the best way to go because, and I'll quote her here directly, "This would make ELP a clearly testable, verifiable, and standardized credential consistent across all jurisdictions. Such a reform would enhance legal clarity, uphold safety standards, and promote fair and equal treatment for all commercial drivers." So what is actually being proposed in this petition? Well, first of all, let's say that this petition went into law as it is right now. That would mean that current existing CDL holders would have a 1-year grace period to go to their DMV and obtain that ELP endorsement. Also, CDL applicants who are in school trying to get their CDL, they would have to have the ELP endorsement in order to get a commercial learner's permit. And if a driver does not have an ELP endorsement, they are not able to get a CDL. And if an existing driver passes that 1-year grace period and doesn't get the ELP endorsement, their CDL is downgraded, and then they are subject to be placed out of service. So yeah, just to clarify, this is not something that is happening right now. This is a petition for what they want to happen, but the endorsement would work pretty similar to tanker endorsements or hazmat endorsements and would be kind of regulated in the same way. So yeah, interesting idea, but again, we'll have to wait and see whether this actually goes anywhere. Remember, as I said before, as long as optics are not a significant issue, people are they're not willing to take any steps. And finally, there is the state of Texas, the state that has issued the most ELP out of service orders to date. On Thursday last week, Governor Greg Abbott announced that he is directing the Texas Department of Public Safety to strictly enforce English language proficiency. Abbott stated, and I quote him here directly from his press release, "Every commercial driver license operator on Texas roadways must be able to communicate clearly in English to ensure compliance with traffic laws, follow safety directions, and prevent accidents. Today, I am directing DPS, Department of Public Safety, to enact zero tolerance enforcement of these federal safety regulations across the board, whether drivers are operating across state lines or only within Texas." So what does that mean, and how is it different from what has been happening already? As I mentioned before, Texas is leading in the amount of out-of-service orders issued for ELP violations. Well, the reason this is different now is because the Department of Public Safety has been directed to perform an ELP assessment on all commercial drivers operating on Texas roadways. And to top it off, Governor Abbott stated that no more CDLs will be issued to folks who do not speak English proficiently enough to communicate with department personnel. So yeah, guys, that's the news thus far. I'm very curious to hear what you think in the comments, and I'm very, very curious to hear your point of view on this ELP endorsement idea. Do you think an endorsement is the best way to streamline the enforcement process of this rule, or do you think there is a better way? Very curious to hear your thoughts. Anyway, guys, wishing you a fantastic week ahead. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning. See you in the next video.